It's exciting for me to be here with you this afternoon and just to get to spend a little bit of time with you and just share some of the things that are kind of going on in my heart. This week has been an interesting week. It's kind of been cold in our part of the world, but the people have come out to the services, and especially the second service. And so, as we've been in these services, just the presence of God has just been a fantastic thing. And I watched the people come in, and I watched them raise their hearts. I watched them raise their hands. I watched them begin to pour themselves out to God. And it's just an exciting thing to me to see hundreds and then up around 1,000 people who are just worshiping in such a deep and powerful and moving way. And it's like God sees this worship, and like it says in Psalms 22:3, it's like He steps into the middle of it. And as He steps into the middle of it, it even gets more powerful still. And the presence of God becomes so strong to the degree that a lot of times we really have trouble even being able to stand up. God's presence is so powerful. And so in these days, with this type of presence and the wonderful things that are happening in the church, it's like more people are coming. And so I decided in these days to do a series of messages through the apostolic team on essence. And what we'll be doing for the next, probably 6 weeks even, is taking the essence of some of these things in the Christian faith that become so powerful if they're understood the right way, and that allow us to go beyond just normal existence, but to really move into what the Bible calls the abundant life, or the overcoming life, or basically the normal Christian life. God's desire is not for us to be victims in any sense or any way, but God's desire is for us to really know Him, but not only know Him, but understand things from His perspective. I use this example. I said, if you have a dog and a human, what dogs understand about humans are very limited. But humans understand dogs quite well because they're a bigger species, so to speak. And the only way that a dog could ever understand a human is for the essence of a human to be inside a dog. Well then, wow, what could a dog understand? All the way up to human. Well, in the same type of illustration, if we understand what true Christianity is, God has taken who He is, His being and His state, and has taken that and put it inside of me and you. Now, it is in us, and that will never change. But what often happens is that we don't understand what has really happened. That's why in Ephesians chapter 4, verse 23, it says that our understanding needs to be renewed, or that it needs to be changed. And now the dog needs to think like a human if he's got a human heart. Well, now humans need to begin to understand that God has designed our lives to be lived from His perspective and to be lived from His point of view. So I just began to share with the congregation about 4 simple things that I think are very powerful and that will help any church, and help any church become a dynamic, powerful church, or will help any individual become a dynamic, powerful individual. And basically, all the Bible is about answering 4 questions. I'll say all the questions, and I'll go back and try to talk to them in the time that we have today. The first question is, who is God? Now, that becomes an important question because everything else is a result of understanding that. But the second question is not only who is God, but the second question is, who am I? Who am I? And the third question is, what do I have? And the fourth question is, what do I do with what I have? Now, let's go back to the first question briefly. And basically, because of who God is, as we understand who God is, God uses several titles to describe Himself. He uses the word all-powerful. He's omniscient. He knows everything. He's all-powerful. He's every place at the same time. He's the captain of all the angelic host. And there is nothing that can hide from his sight. Those tend to be descriptions and titles of who God is. But when God describes who he is, he says, I am the self-existent one. And that is in itself is very powerful, because that means that God is above every situation that could ever affect a human. Humans can be affected by the economy. Humans can be affected by the lack of rain. Humans can be affected by all kinds of circumstances. But the self-existent one, humans can be affected by infirmities. But the self-existent one is above all the situations that can affect humans. So that becomes real interesting. Now, God's name basically has two parts. He's the self-existent one who extends his hand to enter into a covenant relationship, or a relationship, you could say. Now, just imagine for a moment that you're in the earth, and you can be affected by anything that is in the earth, but all of a sudden you have ended up with a real relationship with the one who is self-exists and is above any situation that could ever affect you. Wow, this would be a good place to start getting happy, because this is what God's name literally means. The self-existent one who enters and keeps covenant with the ones that he's in relationship with. That means keeps covenant means he can be depended upon. So that is the first thing, is that we want to begin to understand who God is. But I don't have time to go into all that right now. But the second thing is that who am I? And who I am, if you've heard me say, if the richest man in the world adopts you, if he walks into the room and says, is your name Richard? And I said, yes. And he says, I want to adopt you. And I say, yes, where do I sign, Dad? The moment that I sign and accept the adoption, all the way that I see myself and all the way that I understand myself, who I am on the inside and who I am on the outside, radically begins to change. And the reason it changes is because of the adoption, not because of anything I did. I see myself in a different way now. I perceive myself. The information that comes to me, I perceive it in a different way. The information that I think and conclude upon and include upon, I think it in a different way now, because I'm the son of the richest man in the world. And then what I do and how I act and the attitudes that I have as I act are totally different now. Because why? Because of who I am and because of this adoption. So it literally gives me a new identity. So that's why this second question becomes such a powerful question, and it is this: who am I because of the work of Christ? Now, what I want you to understand is that God has adopted you. The third point is that what do I have? And this refers to the inheritance. If I now am a son, I am also an heir. Now, briefly, what I want to begin to conclude with is this: so God has designed your life to be lived from the perspective of a son or a daughter who is an heir. A son or a daughter who is an heir, who has its inheritance now. Now, that is the perspective that God wants you and I to take as we live life, as we conclude about life, and as we extend ourselves and begin to act and interact with life. Or he wants us to have this paradigm in us, what we call the son inheritance, or the son heir paradigm. Excuse me, I'm thinking Spanish a little bit. Now think about this, and we'll try to get back with this some of our next times together. The fourth thing is, what do I do with this great inheritance? God bless you. You can always find me on CCI World, and I answer all those emails. Bless you. Thank you much.